I woke up groaning. The 𝐊𝐿𝐲𝐿s took the kids with them on a business trip to New York and hadn't given me a set time they would be back. I had to make ends meet, so I found a job as a waitress in a sketchy little cafe, donning a rather immodest uniform to start my new life. Chapter 5. I woke up groaning. The 𝐊𝐿𝐲𝐿s took the kids with them on a business trip to New York and hadn't given me a set time they would be back. They said a month, so I wouldn't have any income for a month. I had applied to a cafe and they accepted my application. Today was my first day as a waitress. It was in a sort of sketchy little place, on the corner of the pub road, as the locals called it. I hadn't seen Gabriel since the 𝐊𝐿𝐲𝐿𝐲 day. I hadn't been avoiding him. It was just never convenient for me to call him or text him back. It had only been a week, but he hadn't stopped texting me. I was scared. I was scared of what I felt for him. I was scared of how fast things were moving. Then I was scared of how obsessive he seemed to be. I was nervous he was just going to show up at my apartment, so I avoided being home. I was spending a lot of time at the 𝐊𝐿𝐲𝐿's house, and a lot of time between classes in a small corner of the campus gardens. Sometimes I hung out with Michael. I won't lie and say I don't miss him. That's part of the problem. We met a week and a half ago, talked a few times, and now I miss him. I put on the uniform for the cafe. A short black skirt and a light blue deep V, neck tee embroidered with the logo. Not the most modest of outfits, but they hired me right away and in a college town that is remarkable. So I took the job. Good morning. I greeted the shop owners, an older couple, Marie and Greg. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐲𝐿𝐲𝐿𝐲, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. We've got an apron for you in the back, and there's another gal back there to show you the ropes. You are the right side of the cafe, and Margaret is left, Marie informed me, turning back to Greg. Okay, thank you. Walking back to pick up my apron. Hey, you must be the new girl. I'm Maggie. Have you ever been a waitress before? A tall, bubbly brunette skipped over to me. I used to in high school, I replied, giving her a smile. She laughed, before tying a small white apron around her waist. Perfect. I'm in high school, senior year actually. This is how I'm planning on making enough money to go to college next fall. Since you've done this before, you should be all set. Right. I'll see you on the battlefield. She saluted me before bouncing out of the room. I held in a chuckle at her behavior before I tied my own apron around my waist and headed out of the break room, notebook in hand. After a quiet morning of waiting tables, I took off my apron and grabbed backpack, heading out the door. Hi guys. I have class now. Opening the door up for a customer. We'll see you tomorrow. Marie called after me. I gave her a little wave as I walked out. I ran into someone right after I exited the cafe. Sparks. I looked up in shock to see the person I had been trying so hard to avoid. He reached out towards me the moment he registered who I was. I saw his eyes dark in anger and I knew it was time to make my exit. I had been avoiding any form of communication from him, and it was just pure chance that he happened to walk by and bump into me. Oh hey, Gabriel. Nice to see you. Gotta run. I sent him an awkward little wave before turning on my heel and running down the street towards the education building. I heard footsteps pounding behind me, and I encouraged myself to run faster. Viola. Wait. He yelled from somewhere behind me. Nope. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐲𝐿𝐲𝐿𝐲, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Gotta get to class. See y'all later. I was screaming. People were moving out of our way, looking at us with amused smiles on their faces. I'm sure it just looked like a cute game of tag to them. Viola. Gabriel shouted again, rage leaking into his voice. I squealed before I sprinted across the road and began cutting through the green in the middle of campus. Then someone tackled me to the ground, flipping around at the last sec, and so I landed on top of him. Unfortunately, I twisted my ankle as I was being tackled. I screamed and tried to scoot off, putting a protective hand on my ankle. Are you hurt? Gabriel demanded, sitting up and squeaking from into his lap. I tried fruitlessly to wriggle away, but to no avail. His grip only tightened. Why are you avoiding me? He tried again. Still aggressive. I was still shaking, but now there were tears as well. Let me go. 𝐿𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐿𝐷 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Rolling off of his lap, he stared at me in shock, before the shock dissolved into anger. I panicked, more scared of him now that he was angry. I hopped up onto my good foot and tried to limp away as fast as I could, but I had barely taken 3 steps when I was lifted into his arms. You are hurt, he exclaimed, immediately concerned. I felt the tears come out faster. I'm fine and I want you to put me down. 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐿𝐷 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Freaking out, Gabriel completely ignored me as he focused his eyes on my ankle, which was rapidly swelling. You are not fine. I can't let you walk around on this. It's my fault. He whispered the last part to himself and began walking with purpose away from campus. Where are you taking me? I demanded, angry tears slipping out uncontrollably. I have a class to get to. I need to go. Don't you have somewhere to be? Why were you ignoring me? He demanded right back. I scoffed and rolled my eyes, looking away from him. I wasn't ignoring you. I just don't have any free time. I denied. It takes like 2 seconds to send a text. Do you know how worried I was? I couldn't find you anywhere. I couldn't get a hold of you. I had no way of knowing you were safe. He burst out angrily, holding me tighter to him and burying his nose in my hair. Breathing deeply. Why do you even care? We've only known each other for a few days. You are really starting to freak me out. Just let me go to class. I thrashed around at his hold once again, but a growling sort of sound deep in his throat had me holding still. He was still walking with long strides and I found myself relaxing against him. It was obvious he wouldn't be setting me down until he was ready to, so I might as well get comfortable. He was quiet for a few minutes, taking deep breaths and calming himself down. If you text someone and they don't text back for a week, I think that is a reason to worry. If we are going to be friends, you need to answer my texts and calls. It was clear to me that he was anything but calm. The tenseness in his chest and the locked jaw were pretty good indicators. If I was smart, I would have calmly and rationally agreed and waited for him to set me down. Unfortunately, I am not smart. What if I don't want to be friends? I bit out, still peeved at him. Did you ever think that maybe I don't want to be friends either? I am trying really hard to compromise here, but you are not making this any easier. He growled out. I flinched and shivered at his tone. Then leave me alone. I pleaded. I won't do that. Sweetheart, I may not want to be friends, but I don't want to leave you alone even more. Gabriel clutched me to his chest further. I squirmed, trying to reposition to something more comfortable. I really can't afford to miss class. Where are you taking me? Looking up at him, he glanced down at me for a brief moment. Somewhere where we can get your ankle fixed, he replied shortly, focusing on the path he was walking. Somehow he had gotten us all the way through town and into the mountains by walking. It had only been a few minutes too. I'll be fine. I don't want it fixed. I panicked, thrashing around. I immediately thought of the medical bills I would have to pay and knew I couldn't afford it. I could just go home and use sweatband and be fine. Nothing an bandage wouldn't fix. You will get your ankle fixed. It's my fault till I'm not setting you down until I know you'll be okay. He growled out. I took a sharp breath in as I weighed my options. Then you'll have to carry me until my ankle heals on its own because I am not going to the doctor. Looking defiantly at Gabriel, he stopped walking completely from shock as he looked at me. He looked like he was actually considering carrying me for a few seconds. As much as I would enjoy having you in my arms even longer, I can't stand the thought of you being in pain. You have to go. You don't have any say in this, Gabriel said with finality. I felt tears prickling my eyes as I thought about what the cost of this visit would mean financially. I would need another job. I would need another high-paying job. To find one of those in a college town would be an absolute nightmare. I was lucky to have gotten both of my jobs so easily. I doubted my luck would last a third time. What's wrong? Gabriel panicked, taking a seat on a log that had fallen over across the path and turning me in his arms so I was looking into his eyes. I saw pain in his eyes as he wiped away my tears. Nothing, I whispered, lying and looking away. Please tell me the truth. Is it your ankle? Concerned. Suddenly I was curious. Why do you care? Gently this time. It was more important to me this time. What? Gabriel asked, confused. It's just that we only met a little while ago, and now you care about me so much. It's a little overwhelming, so I just want to know why you care so much. Why you are so concerned with my feelings. Why? I asked him, cupping his jaw with my hand softly. His eyes closed and a look of pleasure mixed with torture appeared on his face. I wish I could tell you, he whispered. I ran my fingers through his hair and over his face slowly and gently, relishing in the feel of sparks and warmth that flowed through me at his touch. You don't know. I don't know if it will scare you away from me. And you are too important to me for me to scare away, he answered quietly. I hummed and leaned my head against his chest, cuddling into him now. Please don't make me go to the doctors. I changed to the subject, keeping my voice light. Why don't you want to go? Gabriel implored, circling his arms around my waist and pressing me to his front while his nose and mouth dipped down to my neck. I can't afford it. If I go, I'll have to get another job. I can't have another job and go to school. I don't have any support from my parents. My dad died years ago, and my mom remarried an idiot who convinced her that I was going into a meaningless profession. They told me if I stay home and became a receptionist, they would pay for everything, but I just felt so strongly I needed to be here. I don't have any money. I live from paycheck to paycheck and I can only just barely afford rent. If I go to the doctor, I will have to give up. I'll have to leave. I confessed, the words just flowing out of my mouth. Something about Gabriel made me feel like I could trust him. You will not leave. 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐼𝐴 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐼𝐴 wrapping me up in his arms as I cried. Then don't make me go to the doctor, I pleaded, clinging to him. You have to get better, he argued. It was more to himself than to me, though. If you think for 1 second I would make you pay for a visit to the doctor, you are mistaken. You will not have to pay for things that I should pay for instead. I blushed and tried to move away. I didn't tell you that so you would pay for it. Gabriel, I whispered, embarrassed. Come on. We're almost there. He ignored me and stood, letting me hop onto him for a piggyback ride. It makes me uncomfortable to have you pay for it, I admitted shyly. Well, I'm the reason you got hurt, so I should be paying for it anyway. If I see a reason to pay for something for you, I will do so. And nothing you can say will deter me, Gabriel said. There was no room for argument in his tone, so I settled in, wrapping my legs around his waist. After another minute we were emerging into what appeared to be a small town, with a few streets, a few more shops, and a few more people. Where are we? I breathed. I was taken away by the beauty of the town. All of the buildings were older looking, with cute paint jobs, and they oozed warmth and welcome. Do you like it? Craning his neck to look at me, a hopeful smile on his face. I love it. How has no one told me about this place? I wondered, looking around at all of the people. I was too busy staring at them and trying to soak in everything that I didn't notice them staring at me in shock and wonder. This is my home, Gabriel replied. You live here, I gasped, looking back down at him. For most of my life, he confirmed. I feel so lucky. The phrase slipped out of my mouth before I could think to contain it. Why? Gabriel chuckled, making his way toward a cute white building labeled clinic. This place is beautiful. I doubt many people know about it because it's not very crowded and it's so out of the way. I can't believe you trust me enough to show me this place. Still looking around in awe, Gabriel walked through the doors of the clinic and straight into a room, without even checking me in. I want you to know about this place. I'm glad you like it. I hoped you would. I have so much that I want to show you, Gabriel confessed, setting me on the exam bed, and sitting on the bed beside me. Ugh, Gabriel, don't you have to check us in? Moving to hop off of the bed. Don't get off. You are still hurt. Gabriel pulled me back so I was leaning against the wall on the other side of the bed and used his arm as a sort of strap to hold me in place. I own a few businesses and this happens to be one of the ones I invested in. What exactly do you do? Realizing that I didn't really know much about him. A little bit of everything. Politics, business, and such, he explained vaguely. I looked at him for a moment, studying his handsome features. How old are you? I finally asked. Older than you, Gabriel teased, poking the tip of my nose. I giggled and rolled my eyes. Nice try. I'm really curious. I tried again. Then the door opened. Hello, Alpha. What can I do for you today? Asked a smiling young man who walked into the room. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Confused. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Everyone in town calls me it because I liked to fight with dogs when I was younger. Gabriel explained. I laughed at him and gave him a kiss on the cheek. You're cute, I teased when he turned red. Her ankle is hurt. Gabriel addressed the doctor. The man nodded, sitting in his chair and rolling over to us. How did it happen? The doctor asked. Gabriel looked down, clearly upset, and opened his mouth to speak before I cut him off. I tripped at work. Gabriel caught me and brought me here. Gabriel looked at me in shock and I sent him a conspirator-y wink. I knew the guy felt bad. And he was paying for me to go to the doctor. He wasn't off the hook. But he was close. The doctor poked and prodded at my swollen, bruised ankle, and I winced as he touched the off-colored skin. Gabriel gently kissed the crown of my head and wrapped an arm around my waist. There are a few different procedures we can do to heal you up. I believe you have a fracture in the ankle. We can do a little surgery, just to put a plate in and help your bones grow back to normal. We will put a cast on with or without surgery. The danger in not agreeing to the surgery is that your ankle may not heal with a full range of motion. The doctor smiled. I stared at him with wide eyes, fear settling in my chest. I did not want to go through surgery. I couldn't afford it. And yet the possibility of not being able to walk normally again was horrifying to me. I wanted to work with kids. If I can't even walk, I will struggle the rest of my life to keep the kids in line. There's not another option, I asked quietly. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Can I talk to you in the hall? The doctor asked after a pregnant pause. I looked up at Gabriel in panic. I didn't want to be left alone here, in a place I didn't know. I'll be just a few seconds. Gabriel whispered, nuzzling my neck and placing a soft kiss behind my ear. I let out a sigh and nodded, untangling myself from him. Come back soon, I pleaded quietly. A pained expression broke on his face as he nodded solemnly and walked out the door after the doctor. I took note that when he left, the dull ache in my ankle suddenly increased to a sharp pain. A few moments later I heard a growl of frustration, and then what sounded like a wall breaking. There was shouting, and then the door opened. I'm here, Gabriel cooed as he raced over to me, tucking me firmly in his chest. Does it still hurt? Less than it did a few seconds ago. I mumbled, cuddling into his chest. After I spoke, he froze, and then let out a small whimper. There was an inner battle going on. I could sense that much, but I had absolutely no idea what about. Do you trust me? He suddenly asked. I tilted my head and studied his anxiety-ridden face. I have no reason to, but I do. I confess shyly. Gabriel breathed out a sigh of relief as if that was the answer he was hoping for. His eyes were filled with worry, and he was almost shaking from nerves. I was so concerned I placed a comforting hand on his arm and rubbed until he was calmer. Hey, I spoke softly. He looked up miserably. I don't know what it is you are going to tell me, but I didn't think you'd let anything get between us. I trust you. I trust that even if I'm freaked out, you'll keep me with you. You'll help me feel okay. I'm not leaving. I don't know what I have done to deserve you, Gabriel whispered. I blinked and looked at him in confusion before his eyes dark, and he tugged me closer to him by my hips. Just spit it out already, I urged him, cupping his jaw. He looked into my eyes fiercely. Determined. I have to bite you. Chapter 6, that's it. I'm leaving, I announced, moving to hop off of the bed. In an instant, Gabriel was crushing me against his chest desperately. I can't tell you anything else. You aren't ready, but you won't have to go through with the surgery if you let me bite your neck, he explained in a pained voice. Why would you biting my neck help at all? It just sounds weird. Trying to scoot away from him, he wasn't willing to let me go, but I wasn't going to give up this time. I wasn't an object he had some claim over. Let me go. I won't run away. I can't. But I need to have a little space between us so I can think about this, I commanded, poking his chest sternly. He took a deep breath and then nodded, releasing me to scoot a few inches away. I can't explain it. If I bite your neck, I can promise you 3 things. You won't be in pain anymore. You won't feel the pain of the bite. You'll feel for me what I feel for you. At least a fraction, Gabriel informed me. I sat back, leaning against the wall for support. I saw him start to reach out toward me to steady me and then catch himself. The only con I can see is that you are biting my neck. Gabriel, this all feels a little fantastic. Don't you think? Isn't that what life is all about? Even in the fantastic, just for the joy of being right. Gabriel pondered. I contemplated my options. I could go through with the expensive surgery and feel bad about him paying for it. Or he could nip at my neck and pay for the surgery and I would feel better about him paying for it because he would be wrong. And he'd have bit my neck. Something in his voice made me realize that he was serious though. He genuinely believed this would make me feel better. I didn't know much about Gabriel, but I did know he would never hurt me on purpose. Okay, I breathed. His head snapped up, his eyes searching for truth in my eyes. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐸𝐾𝐈 Heartfelt thanks for your unfading 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 enthusiasm. You'll let me? Gabriel asked, hope filling his eyes. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐸𝐾𝐝 Heartfelt thanks for your unfading 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 enthusiasm. I'll let you, I confirmed. Suddenly Gabriel tackled me into his arms, cupping the back of my head with his hand to cushion it and smiling broadly. I promise this is going to be a good thing for us. Gabriel beamed, his bright smile almost blinding me. I told you. I trust you, I reminded him, pulling his head down to my neck as if to prove a point. I felt his smile against my skin before he placed a gentle kiss below my ear. I tried to ignore the pleasurable sensation that arose. If I thought the sparks were intense when we touched, I was completely blown away by the sparks when he kissed me. He laid another kiss on my throat, and another at the junction between my neck and shoulders. I gasped, fingers clutching at his shirt as my eyes closed involuntarily. He growled out, kissing my neck with more passion now. I was melted in his hands. He could have done a number of things to me, and I would have been helpless. His right hand trailed up my left leg and settled on my hip, massaging the skin there gently. His left was holding his weight off of me so that he could focus more on my neck. He groaned as I let out a shaky moan, flashing red with how embarrassed I was. He was licking and sucking where I had gasped, all of his attention on that one spot. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pinch on my neck and I gasped, but it soon turned into an embarrassingly loud moan as the full force of pleasure crashed through my body. My eyes rolled back in my head and my fingers clutched his shirt harder, trying to ground me. Gabriel pulled away, his head hovering just over mine. I was out of breath, completely speechless, and very confused. Gabriel's eyes were shining bright with happiness and I couldn't help but lean up to place a gentle kiss on his cheek, surprising both of us. How does your ankle feel? He asked while he clambered off of me. I found myself staring in shock at my ankle that was fully healed and completely painless. Great. I chirped happily. I can't believe that worked. Yeah, modern medicine is weird. Right. Gabriel nervously chuckled. Okay, you doofus. Come on. I still have to get back to school. I have classes. I reminded Gabriel. I thought about how late I was going to be, and how awkward it was going to be explaining the injury on my neck. And then it dawned on me. I should have an injury on my neck. I shot away from Gabriel, my hand flying up to my neck. I expected to feel a sting as I touched the spot, but I didn't feel anything other than a dull ache. Simply a reminder of the earlier pleasure. No mark left behind, and I felt like a shock of energy and lightning had zapped through my body. And now I was stuck in some weird aftermath phase. In the next instant, Gabriel was flinging his body over mine, protecting my body from any possible threat. Before he realized that wasn't why I screamed, his eyes did a thorough scan of my body to assess my well-being. Why did you scream? You're fine, Gabriel asked, slightly out of breath from his panic. My eyes widened. Yada, I shouldn't be fine. You just bit my neck. That's weird. I should be bleeding. I should feel hurt. Or dead. I don't know what veins are there. Maybe you bit into it at one. Why aren't you freaking out? I blurted, inching away from him. You regret it. A statement. He looked devastated, his eyes looking away, his jaw clenched. No, another statement. I just don't understand. This isn't normal, Gabriel. What is going on? I begged. He didn't answer. I can't enough with the excuses. You can talk to me. You can't trust me. You know almost everything about me. And clearly, this is a little bigger than my financial woes. I already ignored you for a whole week. I can do a lot more than that if you don't start talking. Crossing my arms angrily. What? But I can't. You don't understand. He was frantic. Anything to get me to take it back. You just bit my neck. I just let you bite my neck. If you can't trust me. But I don't spend time with people who can't trust me. Turning to head out the door on my now fully healed ankle, I heard a defeated sigh. And then Gabriel was tangling his fingers with mine. Sparks erupted on my skin, I gasped, not used to the intensity and sudden warmth. From the corner of my eye, I saw Gabriel bite back a smile. And I flushed pink. I continued walking. I wouldn't speak to him until he could trust me to tell him. I walked toward the woods, preparing to walk the however many miles it was back to campus. He could hold my hand all he wanted, but it wouldn't change my mind. Wait, Gabriel quietly spoke, tightening his grip and pulling me to a stop. I turned with a blank expression on my face, trying to hide the hope I felt. Get in my car. Please let me make sure you get there safely. His eyes sorrowful. I nodded once, following him to a silver Hyundai Sonata. Neither of us spoke as we drove through the mountains. I watched the sun lower in the sky, feeling my heart sink with it. Several times Gabriel opened his mouth to speak, but he would close it again before anything came out. A few tears slid down my cheeks. I hated that suddenly Gabriel was the most important thing to me. I hated the thought of being away from him. I hated that it was already difficult for me to not turn to him and offer an apology. But I had done nothing wrong. I was fairly certain that by biting my neck, he had triggered something in me, awakened some sort of connection. I felt as if I was making the biggest mistake of my life by refusing to speak to him, when in reality, I probably should have run from him, from the things he made me feel, a long time ago. We arrived at my building and I reached to open my door, but it wouldn't budge. I started panicking. I didn't want to be stuck in the car with him. I wanted to leave. Viola, he started, sounding emotional himself. I let myself glance at him once. There were tears in his eyes, unshed, but there, I felt an overwhelming urge to comfort him. This was the last time I was planning on seeing him, so I let myself indulge in the feeling. I slowly reached out a hand and rested it on his jaw, rubbing my thumb against his cheek, comforting it. Please don't leave. He managed to get out, the pain in my chest increasing as he begged. He was making this harder on both of us. Please. I want to fix this. I want to tell you. But there are things we have to do before I am allowed. I can't just. I retracted my hand, holding it close to my chest where I was feeling empty. Can't just tell me, Gabriel, if I have to do something. I don't really want this to be goodbye either. But I can't be friends. To my 𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐷𝐞𝐝 heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. With someone who can't tell me about them. So till you are ready to come clean. This is goodbye. Trying the door again. Let me out. A demand. Please. A tear slipping out. I have to go. You have to let me go. I whispered back, looking away from him. The intensity of his gaze was burning through my resolve. What if I can't? He wasn't asking me. It sounded like a prayer. I whispered to some higher power, begging for his pain to be taken away. Please, Gabriel. I managed. He closed his eyes like he was gathering his strength, and then he hopped out of the car and walked around to open my door for me. I stepped out and I was engulfed in his arms. This was for him. If the goodbye was for me, the hug was for him. And he wept. I won't expose another's weakness. But he wept. To my 𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐷𝐞𝐝 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Longing. Regret. And then I was inside my apartment, and my door was closed. And that's when I wanted to cry. I let a few tears fall before going in search of tissues. Surely I had some. I must have some. I checked my desk. I checked my kitchen. I checked my bathroom. I had none. In despair I collapsed on the floor in my kitchen, sobs racking my body. I had moved out here to prove to my mom I could live on my own. I didn't need her money. I didn't need her help. Turns out I was completely wrong, since I couldn't even get myself a box of tissues. That day I spent 25 minutes on my kitchen floor crying over a box of tissues before I realized that I had someone nearby. Someone I could turn to. Chapter 7. So I did what I should have done the moment I felt overwhelmed. Hello. I called my grandma. Grandma. I felt tears springing to my eyes as relief started consuming me. Someone to bear this burden with me. Hey, sweetie. How are you doing? She asked kindly. I started crying. Not very good. I managed to get out. Tell me all about it. Grandma encouraged. And so that's exactly what I did. I explained my jobs, the lack of support from my mom, and even Gabriel on the neck bite. Well, I can see why you feel so overwhelmed. She started. I gasped out a laugh through my tears. First things first. You are a wonderful young woman. Viola. I cried harder. I mean it. Not very many people can work with children. Even fewer with children that require special education. You are doing. Thanks. Grandma. I whispered. Your mother is scared. What? What do you mean? Wiping my eyes with my sleeve. She lost your father. Honey. They were in love. They cared about each other more than themselves. The only reason she's even with your stepfather is that he can provide for you too. She's scared because she can't protect you while you live so far. She's scared because your career is not going to be easy. She loves you. Grandma revealed. Doesn't feel it. I muttered. If she told you all of that, she would have to admit to you. And herself. She isn't ready to lose you. It's easier for her to be indifferent. Grandma explained. I sighed deeply. Grandma laughed. I know. To my 𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐷𝐞𝐝 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Speaking of crazy, Grandma wailed often. I winced in anticipation. You let someone bite your neck. She yelled. Not only is that weird, but it's also crazy and sanitary. And just so you wouldn't have to go and pay for a simple procedure. How could you rationalize that? You need to stay away from that gentleman. It's clearly insane. Grandma exploded. Something in me just liked her insulting him. But I pushed it away. I know. I think everything just got to me, and I just lacked judgment for a while. Things were moving really fast in that relationship, and it kind of freaked me out. He gave me a ride home. But I told him until he explained himself I didn't want to see him or have him near me. Hopefully, that goes away, I explained. 𝐿𝐻𝐸𝐿𝐬 𝐊𝐢𝐳. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Hey, I was thinking, and what if I drop by tomorrow? I'll buy you some groceries and new clothes and tissues, and we can have a fixer-upper day, Grandma suggested. I have class, Kit. You need a break. I'll see you tomorrow. I love you. She ended the call. I let out a relieved sob as I realized that my grandma would take care of me. An odd whine sounded from outside my door while I cried. Bring me out of my funk. I walked over to the door and opened it, looking out into the hallway and surprised when I saw no one. I was about to close the door when I saw a box of tissues and a small gold paper clip laying on the ground outside my door. The box of tissues was my small miracle, the gold paper clip from my guardian angel. There was a loud thud at my door and then, open up, Viola. My arms are full and I don't want to drop all of this food. I scurried over to the door and flung it open. A wide smile painted itself onto my face. Grandma. Pulling the groceries from her arms and dropping them on the table, she marched in and gave me a hug. Oh, Viola. Every time we're together you are smarter, more confident, and more beautiful, she commented, rubbing my back before she stepped away to inspect my apartment. Thank you. I blushed at the compliment. No wonder you were so stressed. It is way too dark in here, she declared, sliding open the thick black curtains over the windows in the living room. And this paint color, she teased. It's not doing you any favors. Browns absorb all the light. So what is the plan? I asked her. After we get your kitchen reorganized, we are going to go out and buy you yellow paint. A nice, pale yellow, kind of like the yellow of a baby duckling. 𝐿𝐻𝐸𝐬𝐲𝐿𝐬 𝐊𝐢𝐳. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. That's actually my favorite color. 𝐿𝐻𝐸𝐬𝐲𝐿𝐬 𝐊𝐢𝐳. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. So we completely reorganized my kitchen. I knew Grandma's angle. She was a firm believer that there was nothing like healthy change to pull a person out of a funk. But so was I. And I wanted to be pulled out. We hand washed and dried all of my pots, gave my fridge a clean out, and wiped down the oven and stove. The smell of chemicals was strong, but as we cleaned I felt a sense of control come back that I hadn't felt since I had moved out here. Next, we tore down the ugly drapes. I never liked them. The previous owners hadn't liked the natural light, so they blocked it out. I separated the white lining fabric from the black and gave it a lettuce hem, smiling the fun white fabric that now hung decoratively. Grandma was vacuuming literally everything she could find. Floors, walls, furniture. She whipped out a steam mop and showed me how to properly clean the wood flooring. Then we laid the black fabric along the floor by the walls to prevent paint from dripping and staining my floors. It took us a few hours to paint my whole apartment. But by the time Grandma left, I felt light and more prepared to face the next challenges life was planning on throwing my way. For days post, Gabriel 𝐿𝐻𝐸. Skipping into the cafe Sunday morning. Good morning. The friendly woman waved at me, before tossing the apron my way. Which? Tables 68 are all your tables, dearie. Morgan wanted the rest. Marie informed me. I nodded with a smile, got to work. While I was mixing up a hot chocolate for a customer, I suddenly became aware of a sharp pain in my chest. I gasped, clutching at my heart. Viola, you okay? Morgan asked, rushing over. I nodded and grit my teeth. I'll be fine, just tired. I wanted the lie to be true. I couldn't afford the doctor for a trip to urgent care. You sure? Now go. I've got some hot chocolate to deliver. I laughed, relieved as the pain more bearable. I sat in the back of my human and development class and tried to conceal my wins as my headache grew stronger. 6 days post, Gabriel. Since a few days after Gabriel left, I've been feeling off. Chest pain, headaches, To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐤𝐳𝐵, thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, and cramping. I've almost blacked out twice, but once I sit down I'm fine. What's wrong? My collapsed from next to me. Not knowing what to say, not feeling well, I replied quietly, cradling my head in one hand and continuing to take notes with the other. You need the doctor, he whisper-yelled. No, I need you to leave me alone. I'll be fine, I assured him, attempting to stand. My legs were shaking, so I sat back down immediately. Whatever was wrong with me was getting worse. At 8 days post, Gabriel, I lay in bed and wonder if we always count the days after someone significant leaves us. Then I remember Jesus Christ. We do. 9 days post, Gabriel. I miss him. I'm hungry. I can't eat. I can't call him until he explains. I called off work. My body can hardly move. Everything aches. 10 days post, Gabriel. I am dying. This conclusion was not difficult to come to. I cannot move. 12 days post, Gabriel. A whole day passed and I don't remember any of it. I think I just stared at the door all day. I still can't eat. 13 days post, Gabriel. I think someone is knocking on my door. A sudden boom from the living room has me feebly glancing up at the door to my bedroom from underneath my warm bundle of blanket. I tried to get up and walk over, but I started, mumbling feverish nonsense instead. I haven't left the house in a week. The door to my room is flung open, and standing in front of me in all his glory is my savior. Gabriel, I try and say, but it comes out too quiet and croak why. His eyes snap to me and he gasps. He rushed towards me, eyes moist and red as if he were about to cry, hesitantly cradling my head in his hands and studying my shaking frame worriedly. Sweetheart, he soothes, smoothing back my hair. I shivered again, flinching away at the sudden warmth his hand provided. Gabriel worriedly pressed the back of his hand to my forehead like a concerned mother checking a sick child's temperature. I'm getting you help, he announced, wrapping me up in my comforter and lifting me up against his chest. No can't, doctor. Somehow he understood what I was trying to say. I told you, I'm not letting you pay for things that I should pay for. Gabriel insisted. He kept talking, but I didn't catch the rest of it. I fell asleep breathing in the scent I loved, in the arms I missed. The light was bright, even through my eyelids. I couldn't open them because it hurt. I winced, groaning. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐤𝐳𝐵, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She's waking, someone yelled, and I winced, groaning again. A loud growl was through the room. I winced again. Whoever spoke left the room quickly. I was trying to get my bearings when two hands engulfed one of mine gently, and a face pressed into my stomach. Sparks erupted and I knew who was there. Gabriel, I croaked out, slowly blinking once to test out the light. The head shot up from resting on me, and suddenly Gabriel's face popped up right in front of mine. He didn't speak, so I didn't either. I just gave myself some time to observe him. His eyes had big bags under them. His stubble hadn't been shaved and was now almost a full beard. Gabriel's eyes were rimmed in red, almost like he had been crying. But right now they were shining with relief. Viola, he finally choked out, voice thick with emotion. You're alive. I frowned in confusion, studying the relief in his eyes. Whatever had been wrong with me was serious. How'd you get into my apartment? Moving to sit up in bed, Gabriel adjusted my pillows so I propped up against them and not strained. You hadn't left in a few days. I needed to make sure you were all right. I broke your door, but I would do it again without hesitation if it meant saving your life. Gabriel swore. I snapped my attention to him. I was going to die, I exclaimed, before breaking into a coughing fit. Gabriel held a cup with a straw to my lips and allowed me to take a few sips. You were really weak and extremely sick. It was all my fault. And I'm sorry. Gabriel hung his head in shame. What do you mean it was all your fault? Did you poison me? I gasped, scooting away. Gabriel let out a low warning growl and dragged my body back towards him by my uninjured ankle, which had me raising my brows in surprise. He wouldn't stop touching me. No, I would never purposefully harm you. I shouldn't have ever introduced myself to you that day in the park. You wouldn't have felt the sting of rejection, and I wouldn't have had a taste of ambrosia only for it to be ripped away. Gabriel monologued. I watched him pace around the room and held in a laugh. Clearly, the situation was not funny. Look, I don't understand what you're talking about. I really appreciate everything you did for me to get me to the hospital. But I told you already, until you answer all of my questions openly and honestly, I will not let you near me. You need to leave, I commanded, trying to scoot away. He growled again and launched himself at me, wrapping my small thumb up in his arms. No, I asked incredulously. I will answer your questions. He took a deep breath as if trying to calm himself. I just don't want you to hate me, because I won't let you run away from me again. Even if you grow to hate me, I can't let you go. That is abuse. That is an abusive relationship, and we aren't even in a relationship. Gabriel, you can't force me to be with you just because I react poorly to whatever it is you are hiding. Are you in a cult? Are you a serial killer? Is this a kidnapping? I exclaimed, thrashing in his arms with the little energy I had. He grew panicked, trying to calm me, rocking me gently. Viola, please, calm down. Sweetheart, I'll explain everything. I stopped struggling. He sighed in relief and cuddled me into his chest, his plump lips forming a gentle smile. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝, 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Really. I chuckled at the joke and scooted far enough away to be able to see him as he explained himself. I'm a werewolf. I raised an eyebrow at him. He raised one back. No, you're not. I laughed, flicking his forehead. No, I actually am a werewolf. He tried again. Quit messing around. I want to know. I'm not messing around. I am. Something in Gabriel's tone of voice made me pause my laughter. That's impossible, I reminded him, starting to worry. I swear to you. Have I ever lied to you before? Gabriel pleaded with me to know the answer. No, but you don't tell me things. Big things. Werewolf kind of things. He let out a frustrated growl, and I jolted at how animalistic it sounded. I was starting to believe him. That realization both shocked and terrified me, and I looked at Gabriel with wide eyes. You're serious? I whimpered pathetically. Gabriel offered a solemn nod and braced himself for my reaction. 𝐿𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝, 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. His eyes snapped to me from the spot on the wall they had been studying. What? 𝐿𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝, 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I believe you. You do? Gabriel asked cautiously. Should I not? I asked in response. I didn't think you trusted me. Gabriel admitted. I didn't either, was my honest reply. He flinched at the bluntness but nodded his acceptance. It was silent for a few minutes, my mind racing before I noticed he was staring at me with an odd look on his face. What? I finally asked. I'm just lucky, was his cryptic response. I don't know why it set me off, but it did. Why you haven't told me everything yet. I knew you were still hiding things. I put my hands on my hips and awaited his explanation. Do you believe in soulmates? Gabriel asked instead of answering me. His question caught me off guard. I opened my mouth to reply that no. I didn't when something stopped me. I closed my mouth and thought. I don't know, I replied nervously. Why was I nervous? Well, I do. Every werewolf is given what we call a mate. In essence, a soulmate. He paused and glanced at me to gauge my reaction. Too bad for him that I had schooled my features into a mask of indifference. I gestured for him to continue. So he did. Mates are gifts. They strengthen each other, protect each other, provide for, care for, and love one another. A mate is someone who complements you, makes you a better person. A wolf separated from their mate becomes weak. They can't sleep or eat because they are sick with worry and anxiety over their mate's well-being. Not to mention the mental bond that forms after mates begin to care for one another makes their bodies become ill when separated for too long to keep the mates together as much as possible. He explained. How does a werewolf know they have met their mate? How does that identification work? I inquire. I'm not dumb. I know Gabriel wants to pursue a relationship with me. I also know that I could very well fall in love with him if I let myself. I didn't want to start a relationship with Gabriel if he was waiting to find a mate. A wolf just knows. The scent of their mate is more powerful than any other scent. It also is highly attractive. Both mates feel sparks or tingles when they touch. But when they lay eyes on their mate, they know. Their inner liking confirms it to them. Gabriel answered quietly, looking into my eyes and running the back of his hand against my cheek hesitantly. Sparks. 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐬. I struggled to get the word out. Mate. Gabriel tenderly whispered, not breaking eye contact. How is that possible? I'm not a werewolf. You shouldn't feel this way about me. I tried to scoot away from him, but a growl started in the back of his throat and he pulled me into his lap. You are the most suited to me of anyone on earth, and that is why you are my mate. How I got blessed with such an angel is beyond me, but I don't plan on questioning it. Gabriel informed me, placing a deep kiss on my forehead. I pretended not to notice how affectionate he was being. Why am I here? I finally asked, looking around the hospital room. We were apart too long. Sweetheart. Gabriel replied, eyes growing wet with emotion. I averted mine to allow him some privacy and scooted off his lap. So I can never be away from you again. I wondered. That didn't sound too bad. But I had goals in life and family that didn't live here. You want to leave? Gabriel ground out through clenched teeth. His eyes squeezed shut and inhaling deeply. No, I was just curious what would happen, I assured him, reaching out to smooth out the crease between his eyebrows. When that didn't stop the frown adorning his plump red lips, I wrapped my arms around his middle and cuddled into his chest, placing a light kiss to his throat. His arms circled around me gently, holding me to him firmly yet gently, as if he was afraid I would disappear. Chapter 8. So? I asked curiously. Gabriel and I had been sitting in thoughtful silence for nearly an hour and I was ready to go home. I'll drive you to your apartment once you've checked out so you can pack a few things. The rest I can buy for you out here. Gabriel began. I interrupted. 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐼𝐻𝐿 Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What do you mean, pack a few things? Why do I need to pack? You're moving in with me. Now, as I was saying, no, I am not moving in with you. We still aren't in a relationship. You didn't ask, and I have my own life. I retorted angrily. Who did he think he was? You are my mate, he said as if that justified it. He then had the audacity to look angry. So what? I'm not from your world. Mates don't mean much to me. You're my mate. Mates love each other. He tried to explain. I held up my hand to stop him. In my world, people don't decide to love each other. They fall in love. They do kind things for one another. They respect each other. They spend time together. On that solid foundation, they build their love. So I'm sorry if it annoyed you or makes you mad, but I won't have a relationship without those things. I won't throw away my standards because you are a supernatural being. Scooting away. We talked about this. If we are apart, we'll become sick. Since you are human, it will be sooner and more dangerous for you. You have to live with me, Gabriel urged, reaching for my hand. I snatched it away. I am not moving in with you until we are married. If we even get married. I don't care if it makes me sick. I don't even care if it kills me. I told you, I'm not willing to compromise the standards I set for myself years ago. I fixed him with my fiercest glare to reinforce my point. So how do you want to go about our relationship? Gabriel finally asked after a long silence. Like a normal human one. You can ask me on a few dates. If things going well, you can ask us to become exclusive. If we fall in love, we can get married once we know that we want to spend the rest of our lives together, I explained. Gabriel nodded slowly. How long until we can be married? However long it takes me to fall in love with you, I expect. If I agree to your terms, I have a few of my own, Gabriel said. I nodded for him to continue. You have to see me every day. It will help calm my wolf and keep you healthy. Sounds reasonable. I'm not done. You also have to call me every night before you go to bed, no matter how early or late. If I text you, I expect a response within a half hour, so I know you're okay. And you can't go out with other males. My wolf won't allow that. Gabriel listed. Okay. I agreed. I would have agreed to quite a deal more if it meant keeping my standards. And I want a key to your apartment, Gabriel added. Absolutely not. He was delusional if he thought I could trust him with the key. Why not? Gabriel exclaimed angrily. He stood from his chair by my bed, looming over me. I can't trust you to not take advantage of having one. I sat up, crossing my arms. For emergency purposes. He tried to clarify, clearly agitated. Our ideas of emergencies are very different. We both know you can break my door if it's really an emergency. It's not like you haven't done it before. I reminded him. Just give me a key, Gabriel demanded, shifting tactics and grabbing my shoulder. When I winced, he let go, eyes softening with regret. Please. I need privacy, Gabriel. Distance makes the heart grow fonder, you know. Besides, it doesn't mean you can never come over. It means you can come over with my permission. That is reasonable. Thanks for the ride. I spoke softly. Gabriel grunted. He was still upset I wasn't moving in with him. I'll pick you up tomorrow morning, Gabriel said, not turning to face me. No, I have work in the morning. Then I have classes. I'm going to dinner with a friend from human development. If you really insist on seeing me, I suppose you could stop by to say goodnight before I go to bed, I told him, continuing to walk in the building. Don't forget the agreements we set. He called after me. I waved the hand behind me. Yeah. I get it. I groaned, walking inside my apartment. Good morning, sweetheart, a voice said, startling me as soon as I stepped out of my apartment in my waitress uniform. Clutching my chest and glaring at the cause of my fright. What are you doing here? I demanded, putting my hands on my hips. Driving you to work, Gabriel answered simply, a dimple appearing on his smiling face. I held in the sigh that threatened to burst out of me at seeing it and instead settled on groaning. He had kept me up late on the phone and now he expected me to feel chipper about his unexpected arrival outside my apartment. No, seriously. Do you know how long it takes me to walk there? 5 minutes. I'll be just fine on my own 2 feet. Thank you very much. I sighed, stepped my mate, and began speed walking to the stairs. I would never make it if I attempted to wait for the elevator. An arm slung itself across my shoulders. I wouldn't make it with the stairs either, it would appear. Wonderful. Then I get to spend a whole 5 minutes walking with you. How'd you sleep last night? Sweetheart, Gabriel asked, smirking at me. I grumbled under my breath. You really are infuriating. You know that? I asked him, annoyed. My mom calls it a good old-fashioned backbone, actually. He grinned, the dimple popping up again. I resisted the urge to poke it and looked away instead. Well, I call it annoying. Your mom is a little biased. I spat, pretending to still be upset. I wasn't going to let him know I was secretly loving his company. Not after he turned really weird about the trust thing yesterday. One day I'd like for you to be a little biased. He whispered, halting us to hug me tight against him. His nose went right for my neck, nuzzling me there and pressing a soft kiss near where he had bitten me. I bit my lip to suppress the moan I could feel rising in the back of my throat. Let's keep moving, I shakily suggested. I felt him chuckle against my skin. Do I make you nervous? Sweetheart. He spoke lowly. PSH. I gasped when his tongue flicked out and touched my neck. My hands flew up to clutch at his shirt, fingers tightening in an attempt to hold myself up. It was as if my knees turned to jelly, Maybe it's bad. And maybe I shouldn't. But I love that. I love the way you react to my touch. I love the way you pretend you aren't turned on. I love that I make you nervous. Oh my. His husky voice was doing a number on my already frazzled nerves. I was putty in his hands, rendered completely useless without him. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐸𝐬𝐵𝐻𝐸 𝐿𝐻𝐸 Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Sweetheart, you make me nervous too. At this admission, I finally found the strength to pull back enough to look into his eyes. You. Nervous? Please. I don't make anyone nervous. I laughed quietly. You are either really beautiful. You are unfailingly kind. Your smile lights up not just a room, but the whole world. A compliment from you has the power to make someone's day. You hold happiness in your sole possession and grant it to all those who come in contact with you. You are pure. You're good. Sweetheart. You make me so nervous. You make me feel absolutely terrified that someday I'm going to ruin one of those amazing qualities. If I were to wreck even one aspect of your light, I would forever feel the pain. So yes, you make me nervous, Gabriel passionately expressed, never once looking away from my eyes. I blinked back a few tears, startled when one of them slipped out of my eye. Are you okay? Immediately concerned, I offered him a weak smile and a shaky laugh. No one has ever said anything like that to me before. Maybe this thing isn't so bad. Being with you forever won't be so bad. I confess shyly. Sweetheart, I will never ask for anything from you. Anything you grant me is a gift. And even if you are just near me for the rest of my life, I will be pacified. You're my light, Gabriel promised, pressing a deep kiss to my forehead. I sighed happily, stepping out of his warm hold and squeezing his hand in farewell. Pick me up after school. Turning to walk towards the cafe. I thought you had dinner. Maybe I want a new dinner companion now. Giggling and flickering my fingers in his direction as I made my way inside the diner. I heard a low growl and stifled my giggles. Viola, Morgan gasped as I walked inside. I turned my bright gaze to hers and noted her jaw practically on the ground, her eyes alight with curiosity and mischief. Yes, trailing behind the counter to tie on my apron. Who was that? She prodded. I raised an eyebrow. Who do you mean? Tucking a pen into the pocket and flipping through my notebook to a new page. Oh, shut it. You know who I mean. Please tell me he isn't the reason you've been skipping work. Morgan smacked my shoulder. I turned to her, my own jaw slightly open. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐸𝐬𝐵𝐻𝐸 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐸𝐬𝐵 Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I shrieked quietly, my cheeks flushed. Viola, she mimicked, prodding me for details. Thankfully we didn't have any customers yet. I wouldn't lie about being sick. I was in the hospital. I scolded. Morgan's pretty eyes widened. Oh my gosh. Are you okay? She wondered, reaching out to pat my arm comfortingly. I nodded, a small smile spreading onto my face. I grabbed a rag from the soapy water bucket and set to work wiping off the tables on my half. Someone's looking out for me, I told her. I couldn't look at her though, because that was the first time I had admitted to myself that perhaps I was going to be okay. I had someone looking out for my well-being. That in and of itself made life a little brighter. Oh, someone. Making me turn around and flick the rag at her. Oh, hush. I laughed. She just hummed and skipped over to flip the sign to read open. We watched that morning in a happy mood. Morgan was a sweet girl with a sassy personality, and I couldn't help but think of her as a younger sister. When I left for school, she gave me a big hug and told me to call her next time I was sick because she was looking out for me too. I walked out of the cafe at noon with tears in my eyes. Immediately my phone rang. Hello. I sniffled, wiping my eyes. Why are you crying? Gabriel's voice demanded. I gasped, looking around me to see if I could spot him, but I couldn't see anything or anyone. How do you know? I wondered. My eyes dry now. Sweetheart, please tell me who made you cry. I need to make sure you're okay. Gabriel pleaded. I smiled softly, blushing and looking at the ground. It's not a bad cry. That did little to ease his worry. Please tell me what happened. 𝐿𝐸𝐴𝐺𝐸𝐬𝐷𝐞𝐜 𝐻𝐿𝐷𝐷𝐐𝐬𝐿𝐸𝐴𝐺𝐸𝐿𝐸𝐴𝐺𝐸𝐿𝐸𝐴𝐺𝐸𝐿𝐸𝐴 I just told the girl at work that I had someone looking out for me now, and she said she was looking out for me too. I admitted, a little embarrassed. I knew he would find out eventually, but I was a little emotional today and I didn't want to make it a huge deal. That's why you cried. Suddenly his voice wasn't on my phone, but right behind me. I whirled around, taking a step back in shock at his proximity. I hadn't heard him approach. Yes, I whispered, hiding my flushed cheeks in my hands. The next moment I was wrapped up in his arms, his nose in my neck. You will always have me to look out for you. I felt my heart warm with peace, but I'm glad you have other people looking after you as well. My love, you deserve the world. I arched my back away from him slightly to look into his eyes. Thank you. I pecked his cheek and fixed his hair fondly. I have to get to class now. Right. He nodded, leaning closer to me and stroking my hair. I closed my eyes for a second to enjoy the tingles before I stepped away. No touching, I warned, smiling and backing away. What? Why not? Gabriel asked mischievously. I narrowed my eyes at him. Because you, sir, are a distraction, and not a welcome one when I'm trying to focus on school. I explained, laughing at the odd, mixed expression of confusion and delight on his face. I'll text you after class. 𝐿𝐸𝐴𝐺𝐸𝐬𝐷𝐞𝐝 Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He nodded dumbly. Bye, Gabe. He nodded again, before he was gone, just as quickly and silently as he had arrived.